What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. And I'm not sure who made that intro song, but whoever he was must have been a huge stud. Before we get into the Dynamite preview, I am going to introduce my esteemed co-hosts on today's show. And let's start with the host of Take It to the Table all the way out in Wales, our good friend, Chaos, on this fine RC Wednesday. How are you doing?
What's good? What's good? What's good? 2 for 2. I was here yesterday. I'm here today. Yes, the AEW Dynamite preview, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm still on the hunt to find out who made that banger of a theme song. Whoever it is, the baby getting royalties. Otherwise, Ben, look forward to a lawsuit. You know us. You know Americans. We love a lawsuit. So yeah. So just making sure. But anyway, let's get to it, shall we?
I have no idea either, my friend, and whoever that guy is, he's definitely talented. I'll say that for sure. Up next, though, we got a good friend of mine as well, also here in Southern California. Not Cardi Cornett this time. We got Cardi Crisp so far. Carter Crisp, how are you on this fine Wednesday afternoon?
Doing good. You're going to get nothing but reasonable and rational takes. You will never hear the terms indie-rific or real wrestling. We're just gonna be normal. We're gonna forget the past and we're gonna focus on the future today.
Oh my gosh. That literally just reminded me of the old DX, the you will not hear the words, and then all the curse words on you. You will not hear the words. We've also got Bobby Petito, speaking of friends of ours, in the comments. What's going on, Bobby? Good to see you as always. And we appreciate having you. We're going to break down a few different things today, mostly Dynamite. But let's actually start with the show that I was covering last night. Speaking of double days, Chaos, we're on fire here with those. NXT new TV deal, big news out of the gates. And realistically, how does this actually affect Raw's TV deal is kind of on the table too, because leaving USA Network on NXT is a factor. It's relevant, and let's get into this discussion. For NXT, I think it's huge personally, right? I don't know what it means for Raw. And that's where, when it's this up in the air, it's always fun to kind of discuss, because we can throw some stuff at the wall. What if Raw is joining SmackDown over on Fox? What if SmackDown's joining Raw over on USA? It could be this network movement thing isn't as simple as NXT got that deal. Now Raw is already written in stone, right? There's a lot of factors at play here. Chaos, I'm going to start with you. What do you think about the deal with NXT, and where do you think Raw goes?
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm in two minds regarding the NXT deal. I mean, obviously, for one, it's a nice little channel to be on for sure. It's a good move for them. To be fair, the amount that they were going for, I was kind of surprised how kind of low it was. I know it's meant to be like the developmental deal, but or the developmental brand. But considering the viewership and the consistent praise that NXT has been getting lately, I was surprised it went down. They got it for such a cheap price. In the TV business, it seems kind of cheap. But yeah, it is what it is what it is. Regarding Raw, I have no idea because that's the real. That one is, considering that Raw is meant to be the flagship, the A show. Considering that has been left till last. To hear any news about it, it's yeah, I don't know how to feel about it, but even though it's meant to be the flagship in our eyes, for the longest, SmackDown was, or it felt like it was the more predominant, more valued show, because obviously it was on Fox and you had Roman Reigns and you had all the championships on that show. So yeah, it felt like Raw's been put to the wayside, but Raw, and rightly so, for as fans, Raw was definitely the more forgettable show, and everything was happening on SmackDown. Now, obviously, Raw, in terms of quality and product, that has gotten up pretty much almost level with SmackDown. And yeah, it could really go anywhere. I don't think it's going to stay on USA. And it, who knows, it might go to TBS or TNT. Imagine if it went to TNT or TBS. That'd be so hilarious. Just
mind numbing.
That would be crazy. But yeah, I honestly don't know where to put it. It could renew it to the last time I heard about the CW network was when SmackDown was on. I'm pretty sure SmackDown was on CW one time, wasn't it?
For a while, yes. I believe that's when it was actually Tuesday night SmackDown.
Yes. Oh man, how times have changed. So so yeah, it's good for NXT. Nice little, more expansion, more awareness for the product. But yeah, for Raw, that one is really up in the air. I feel like wherever it lands, it'll be very surprising to people. That's what I know.
I totally agree, and especially on the Raw part. And I also agree with what you were saying about NXT. And I wonder, in a weird way, we know the developmental brand thing, and it's always seemingly, not always, NXT 2.0, shout out, although the song was great, right? But it's generally speaking exceeded our expectations for what would be perceived as a developmental show. But I think the fact that they're so transparent about that's what the deal is, I'm wondering if that's what hurt them on the lower money, to your point that you were making earlier about, you know what I mean? I'm wondering if just that simple transparency, it set them back in a way as far as negotiating a bigger deal, because we see the ratings and it's not developmental ratings.
No,
right?
No, definitely not. No.
It's absolutely not developmental ratings. To your point about Raw, now let's talk about that too. They could go anywhere. And TNT would be absolutely wild. Fox would be wild. A streaming service would be wild. I mean, we're talking about the longest running episodic cable television show ever. Ever. And it's so highly valued in that regard. I mean, record setting is a big deal. Say what you will about the TV ratings and how they've fluctuated over the years. The consistency is key in my eyes. And that's where I'm wondering if a huge shift doesn't hurt Raw even further. I'm not entirely sure, but something like a TNT, something out of left field, like you mentioned, Chaos.
Yeah.
Newsworthy solves all those problems just in an instant. And that is where I'm not sure myself. Carter, what do you think here? Where is Raw going maybe? What do you think about the NXT deal? How do you feel about the whole deal?
You just opened my brains up, Clark, to the streaming idea. Well, I mean, I'll just throw this out there for those of us in the MMA world. ONE FC is only streamed on Amazon Prime, and it's one of the best MMA promotions out there right now. It's probably the only one that competes with the UFC. That being said, Raw is a 3-hour show. I listened to the real Jim Cornette talk. He gave a breakdown of Raw. And the 3 hours is because it's on TV, because you want to have 3 hours of commercials. I don't see it making any sort of revolutionarily type going to like a fight or an Amazon Prime or anything. But that being said, the biggest boxing promoter, PBC, right now, just left Showtime. They are talking to Amazon Prime. So we might see a lot of these sports move towards more of the streaming model. And I honestly actually think it's better for the sports, but I don't see Raw doing it with the 3-hour format. For NXT, I love seeing them in the news. I mean, my personal opinion, if you can't catch any wrestling but NXT, watch NXT because it's the best show. Everything I love about pro wrestling, NXT has it. Young talent, excited, hungry, great crowd. I didn't know the numbers were relatively that low. I just was kind of looking at them. I think I saw them in the $20 to $30 million range. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I mean it's good to see him in the news. And also something to think about is I think Powerhouse Hobbs said something recently in the media about how he does think AEW competes with them directly. And I think WWE is kind of putting NXT out as like, this is what competes with AEW. And to be perfectly honest with you, as a consumer, NXT, AEW Dynamite, I'll take both of them. Don't make me pick one between those two because those are two great shows. So keep the competition up though, because it'll make the shows better and better. But it's good for wrestling. WWE essentially built a third brand off of young, hungry wrestlers that's, you know, got a new TV deal. And I gotta hop on the DirecTV though and find out what channel the CW is. I haven't been I don't even know what's
I
on
do
there.
think it's basic cable for me. It's not basic cable, but cable wise, it's channel 5, I believe. It's one of those networks though. I think, and to your point about NXT, I do think the audience will travel. And you know, we had a comment here from Bobby Petito. He'll miss NXT on USA Network. I get that. I don't necessarily know how much input the network has as far as that's concerned. Like, as much as, like, don't get me wrong, I'm used to watching USA. It's been a long time, right? But I got used to watching Spike. I got used to watching TBS and TNT. Like, it's just an adjustment network wise. Now, the points you made about the commercial breaks in a 3-hour show, that is something that's so fascinating to me, because you look at something like Thursday Night Football. Thursday Night Football was on NFL Network forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're on Amazon Prime. Ratings down. It is a streaming thing, but they also treat that broadcast like it's a cable broadcast on a streaming service. You get commercials. And I think, to your point about doing live television, if you have those kind of breaks, if you don't have those kind of breaks, you go to a streaming service, right? And all of a sudden it's 1 minute of commercials, not 3. I don't know if that doesn't hurt booking and wrestling in general. There's something to that, right? Pay-per-views are different because you're seeing all matches, but you do need, in a weird way, I feel like, those breaks from a production standpoint, because that's how it's easier to cut to. You're way more on the fly with your commercial breaks being cut by 2/3 time wise, even if the big deal is on streaming, and cutting that famous now longest running episodic cable television show out, right? Cutting that by going to streaming, that's over.
I mean, it will happen, because, like, I think I do feel like in the next decade or so, 5-10 years, like normal TV will phase out. Everything will go to streaming, because that's what the main, everyone's talking about, the streaming wars, like who's buying out who and all this kind of stuff.
Yes.
So eventually that will happen at some point. And then obviously they will get maybe there's one big payout to cover the cost of the commercial, because you ain't going to get those kind of commercials. Like you say, it probably will be like a 30-second thing, or they will just drop this is brought to you by Progressive during the show, kind of thing, like a pay-per-view would.
100%. Well, and I mean, think of it this way too, Chaos. We were at the Raw after Mania, and we watched Seth Rollins do the walkout thing, commercial break, and just go home.
Yeah,
like,
I do feel like
stuff like that it is thrown if that break isn't 3 minutes.
Yeah, 100%. I also do feel like it wouldn't surprise me if Raw when it goes to the streaming, it will revert back to 2 hours. I hope it goes back to 2 hours, because this 3 hours format is definitely it's worn thin for a very long time, I feel, because we all know why they did the 3 hour thing, because of they want to cram as many commercials as they could.
This is random, but I'm starting to also think about this, and it never really crossed my mind until you said that. If Raw is going to streaming, or if any show goes to streaming, don't you not really have a time limit? You can kind of just go, right? I mean, you're not going to go the full 3, but you can kind of just, you don't have to worry about a hard stop, because there's no show coming after. You could just switch if you wanted to switch. And that's an interesting thing, I think, to add. Like the channel changing factor on cable is a little bit out the window, because on streaming you can just change the channel to whatever, but there's no hard stop like on the hour or whatever, right? Because there's no programming coming after necessarily. It's on the platform, there is, right?
Yeah, that's why if it's taped though. If it's live, then I think there will be a block, that, because I know I know, even though the network does have like some live guide kind of thing, so there's also factors. So I think they can actually transition that over to, depending on what they go on. Like, I know Amazon and Disney Plus, they don't really have that kind of structure. So, but if they say for whatever reason it just went straight to Peacock or straight on WWE Network over here, which we still have, thank God, then it will have to be at a certain time. But if it's anywhere else, then they could just do it as long as they want, which I wouldn't complain.
I will say it's interesting. I complained heavily about Peacock, like you mentioned, obviously, and losing the network here in America. out of the gates. The Olympic coverage, the other coverage sports wise on Peacock has actually been outstanding. It's been like almost over offered, easy to navigate, user friendly, really, really good. The live stuff.
Moto Grand Prix.
I got to give Peacock some credit there. That would be an interesting one if Raw went exclusive on Peacock. I actually would not mind that as much as I probably would have said I would have hated it 6 months ago. I got to be honest. I think it's possible that could work.
Yeah.
Let's get into AEW tonight, guys. Let's talk about, we got Dynamite. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Shout out Brody Lee. Speaking of shout outs, Mark Briscoe, one of my absolute favorites. Mark Briscoe's the man, as always, taking on Jay White, not the champion, but carrying the belt currently. And I'm excited to see Switchblade versus Briscoe. This is a fun match. Obviously, in my eyes, Jay White's going over, right? This is going to be, the classic Jay White makes it look like he's not the guy for a second. Mark Briscoe is going to look awesome, and then Mark Briscoe doesn't go over. Jay White does. But Blade Runner, ball game, right? That's my call, at least personally. But I am still excited to see the match. Chaos, do you have any thoughts? Do you think there's any chance of a wild upset tonight?
No.
Yeah.
Simple. No. Yes. Yeah. This is obviously just to carry over the match they have in full gear, which is next week, I believe. Is that correct? Or this Saturday?
I believe so. Yeah. Next week.
Oh, next week. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, it's I'm not gonna lie, I have completely forgotten about the Briscoe, and that's that I take it is mainly predominantly on Ring of Honor. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. He's mostly Ring of Honor.
And then correct me if I'm wrong. The last time he wasn't in anything predominant, he was a heel. Was he a heel at one point? Or am I making that up? Either way,
no. Mark teased a heel turn, but didn't ever really turn because honestly, the fans I don't think bought it based on like.
Yeah, I know it was. I remember that when they teased it, it just completely fell flat, and that was the last time I saw of him. And I don't watch Ring of Honor, so but yeah, I mean it'll be a good turnout. It'll be a good to see him again on Dynamite. The match should be fun. It wouldn't surprise me if they do a squash. It really wouldn't, because like I said, Briscoe is in nothing predominant, nothing important right now. So this could easily be a squash or like a just instant interference by the rest of Bullet Club Gold, and then quick finish. But yeah, it should be fine. I'm more interested in seeing what will happen afterwards, with regarding him and MJF, and regarding the Devil, which from what I've seen from online, people are not a fan of this whole thing. They want this thing to hurry up and end, which I can see their argument. But yeah, I think it'll be just a 5-minute thing. Hopefully, he doesn't outstay his welcome. I agree. Jay White for the win, and swiftly moving on, as Dynamite always does.
Definitely. I will say though, I think they put on a bigger match than a squash, only because it is two really good wrestlers. Like I do think it'll be a 10-minute. I think 5's too short. I think it'll be a 10-minute match. If you were going to do something special with the Devil character, and I'm personally a fan of the Masked, the not knowing and no reveal yet, I love, because when the reveal does happen, that's when we get excited, right? We kind of always hate the just tell us, and then you love it when they do tell you. You know what I mean? I feel like that's kind of wrestling storytelling 101 at times. The only thing I could see that could cause a Jay White loss here, and Mark Briscoe would be kind of the perfect guy to do it, would be a Devil Mask interference for the first time, where you see him get physical in the ring, because we've yet to see the Masked Man enter the ring, whoever it is, whoever it may be, and to have them take out Jay White somehow, maybe on a ref bump, and Briscoe gets the win. That'd be the only route I could see this not being exactly what you broke down, Chaos. You know what I mean? That'd be the only avenue I could see it just being a little bit of a swerve. But speaking of swerves,
nice.
Let's talk Swerve Strickland. See, I was ready for that one. Let's talk Swerve Strickland and Penta El Cero Miedo. Gotta love Pentagon. Gotta love the Lucha Bros. I'm excited about this match. And nobody in my eyes right now is more on fire in AEW than Swerve Strickland. This dude is firing on all cylinders every single week. It's entertainment every time he's on our television, and he deserves his flowers for that. This match is going to be awesome. I love the Lucha Bros. Penta is criminally underrated bell to bell. Guy is awesome. Pure entertainment every single time he straps it up and gets in the ring. Carter, I'm tossing it to you. Who do you got in this one? I personally have Strickland going over in an absolute banger, and I think this match might steal the show.
I like everything you said, Clark. Basically everything I was going to say, you said. So let me see if I can reword this in my. Well, I was at Wrestle Dream in person, and I was there with a non-wrestling fan, and my Swerve Strickland, I think, had a match of the night. 6 stars in Seattle, 18 in the Tokyo Dome. I mean, they are building him. I mean, I think they're building him to eventually maybe take the belt off MJF. I don't know if they're building him up that high, but they are building Swerve Strickland up. He's got a match. I don't know if it happened yet. It's in House of Glory Wrestling with Speedball Mike Bailey, and that's basically an indie royalty match. That's like Kenny Omega going for the PWG championship. So Swerve's getting built up on TV, off TV. He's on fire. He's got Prince Nana doing the dance with everyone in the back. It's going to be a banger match. I think it potentially, had Samoa Joe not been on this card, it could be the match of the night. But I mean, Penta, Lucha Bros, you know me, Lucha Bros, Young Bucks. I cannot see that match enough times. I would run it back and back and back and back. I love the high flying style of wrestling. Lucha Libre is the way. I mean, it's going to be a super fun match. You have one of AEW's fastest rising stars against one of their best luchadors. Let's go. I mean, let's go. This is going to be good. This is going to be this might be 7 stars in the Tokyo Dome. Who knows? But I mean, this is just going to be great wrestling. It's just going to be great wrestling. And I just hope I haven't seen any previews, but I hope Swerve hasn't broken into anyone's house on the lead up, because I would guess that Penta is strapped up at home.
Less home invasions, at least on today's show. I mean, I'm excited for the match, no question. Penta, I just delivers to me more often than people even give him credit for. I do have to add, we got a comment here from Chaos's personal assistant. Woo! Swerve for the next AEW World Champ. I am with you. And then Bobby Petito, our good friend, has Swerve winning the match as well. We've also got one more comment here from Bobby that I really wanted to show. What if MJF shows up during the Jay White Mark Briscoe match? That is one way I do believe, actually, that one could be, I don't want to say salvaged, but really highlighted. That's something that'd be interesting. What if we got both? MJF and the Masked Man. Prove it's not Max.
So well, that's what didn't they do that last week? Didn't they do that? Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. I think they'll probably lean into that more, I think.
Really make us confident it's not Max. Would be.
It's not pre-taped.
Yeah. This was not MJF that's involved. That I would not have any issue with. But as far as Swerve and Penta is concerned, Carter, I think you broke that down perfectly. Like, this is going to be just an absolute banger. You got 2 of the best performers in all of wrestling. This is one of those ones where when Swerve was on NXT, we'd have been like, wait, Swerve versus Pentagon? We'd what? Speaking of streaming, we'd find something to watch that on, no matter where they wrestled that match. It just an exciting matchup. Let's move on. Let's talk women's division. And speaking of the women's division, I'm going to talk about Red Velvet for a second. Underrated, criminally underrated and underused. Red Velvet filled in on short notice. And I'm going way back here. Teaming with Cody Rhodes against Shaq and the new WWE signing Jade Cargill. and she was awesome in that match. She made Jade look amazing. She's done some awesome things on AEW. Not necessarily booked like a top star, but in my eyes, Red Velvet is very talented. Then we have Julia Hart. Are you kidding? How good is Julia Hart? Week in, week out, since the mist with the eye, the evil turn. This isn't the cheerleader we were talking about 2 years ago. This is a new Julia Hart for real, for real. It's been long enough in my eyes. She's proven herself to me. And I cannot wait actually to see how she capitalizes not only on the current character, but what she can do elsewhere. Because I think she's, for someone so young, just proven versatility in a way that you don't often see a prospect like that able to do. Chaos, I'm going to toss this to you. I've got Julia Hart going over, but I really hope this is an outstanding match.
This could really go either way without, in my opinion, not really damaging Julia Hart, because yeah, she could get the win. Like either way, this match is centering over her, like around her, and with her situation going against Sky Blue and Willow Nightingale. Obviously, Sky Blue teased that she was going to side with Julia Hart, and then she got Sky Blue misted Julia Hart, and obviously that's going to be ongoing. So this whatever happens is obviously going to center around her. I feel like, yeah, she could easily take out Red Velvet and then something happens afterwards, or Sky Blue could get herself into this match or like do some shenanigans causing Red Velvet to get the W. Obviously the undefeated streak is broken now since she had that match against Chris Statlander for the title. So yeah, there's not really much for them to really protect her as such, because obviously, you know, that streak is not broken, even though she has been placed. I agree. She's definitely improved over the years in AEW, and she's one of the most intriguing, more important wrestlers in the women's division in AEW. I agree. The booking wise for both Red Velvet and Julia Hart, mainly Red Velvet, has been all over the place. I agree. She's totally underutilized, underrated. She deserves more, but yeah, I hope this one goes a bit longer than the Mark Briscoe and Jay White match that I predict will be a squash. But yeah, I'm cool with whatever outcome is. Again, this one is whatever happens afterwards. A lot of these matches that is on tonight, it's not really about. I feel like it's not really the main focus isn't about the match itself. It's what's going to happen at before or afterwards. That's why I put this one as well. It's all about what is going to happen afterwards or before.
I'm totally with you, and it makes it more fun in a way, because I feel like we run into trouble wrestling wise, longtime fans, right? Predictable finishes are often, right? We watch as much as we watch. We kind of know what's about to happen, right? Most of the time. Not that it's not still entertaining, and not that it's not still great to see, but we know what's up. This card, like you mentioned, there's a lot of room for swerves. There's a lot of room for some funk, for lack of a better way to put it, right? They can throw some funk in our corner, and you know me, I love funk. I am in on let's get funky, let's do some cool stuff before and after these matches. And Velvet and Hart, awesome to see them on a Dynamite card, and just hope that the time is right on that one. Bobby Petito agrees, and that they need to do something with Red Velvet. I like Red Velvet, and they need to do something with her. Bobby, I could not agree more. It's gonna be fun though, no matter what, because I really do think it's a great pairing of talent for the women's match, especially that we're discussing. Let's we got one more comment here before we move to the next segment. We got Anthony Manzano. What's going on, Anthony? Good to see you as always. Thank you for joining us. Let's discuss Keith Lee.
Ooh, I'm joking.
I know. That's where I'm like, I have watched Keith Lee for a long time. People don't move like that. that size. They don't. It's just he's an elite athlete. He's a unique athlete. And his moveset is off the charts. He's entertaining. I thought he would make an immediate impact when he signed with AEW. And thus far, he's tucked behind some other the irony to me is our biggest complaint, what was it, like 24 months ago, would have been not enough big guys in AEW. We could get Keith Lee. Like, talk about a blue chip 5-star absolute stud. And what have we done with him?
He's one of the biggest flops in AEW history. Definitely one of the biggest flops.
If
not the.
Yeah, exactly. One-time tag team champ. You know, it's with Swerve. That was a lot about Swerve. Let's be honest with ourselves, guys. He's taking on Carter's favorite. And so I'm excited to toss this one to you, Carter. Joe. We got Samoa Joe against Keith Lee. This is something interesting. Samoa Joe was in WWE when Keith Lee was in WWE, right, as a commentator. These guys have to have a rapport. And if you're going to get advice from another big fellow, who better than Samoa Joe? Now we're kind of talking here. I don't know exactly how this match goes, but for Keith Lee, it almost feels like I don't want to say must win, but must deliver situation and take whatever you can from Samoa Joe, because you're as talented, you're that talented and raring and ready to go and need to be used. This is something that I do think is salvageable. And to have a guy like Samoa Joe on the other side of it is important. It's huge for a guy as talented as Keith Lee is. Carter, I know you're the Joe guy. 2 questions for you. Number 1, does Samoa Joe go over? And number 2, he can't hit a muscle buster on Keith Lee, can he?
A muscle buster? I mean, I'm predicting Joe's going to win. I think it's going to be a great match. So Joe's going to go over. I do think that they're going to build Keith up. I don't think there's going to be any sort of muscle busters or I forget his old finisher, the really dangerous one, the neck one. But I think you're going to see a Kukina clutch. But a little bit of my criticism of the booking of Samoa Joe's run is part of wrestling is you want it to be believable. And I think they had him go up against little guys that were champions. Well, I say little, relatively little compared to the big boys. But, you know, you had him go up against CM Punk and MJF. And the MJF feud was great. It highlighted how good Joe was on the mic. I mean, Joe is a full package. He built he grinded his teeth in the indies between Ring of Honor, PWG, NXT. NXT's not an indie, but you know what I mean. He really did the hard work in the wrestling business to be a full package. I think this is just giving 2 big guys a really good match on Wednesday night when most of the AEW fans are going to be watching. I think it's going to be just two big hogs just banging meat. I think you're going to see a lot of chops. It's going to be rough. You're going to see some suplexes. They might get outside of the ring a little bit. I mean, they're not going to get as high in the air as Penta is, but it's going to be good. I mean, Joe is great. Anytime you could watch a Samoa Joe match, old or new, it's fantastic. He's got the best look. I mean, Brody King, he said the one guy he never wrestled who'd like to wrestle is Samoa Joe, and that's a bad looking dude. You know, Joe is just like, he's the man. You know, my favorite insurance salesman in California before he got into wrestling. But I mean, this is going to be great. It's going to be 2 big guys slapping each other around, throwing each other around. Joe's going to retain, and it's going to, you know, some people are going to learn who Keith Lee is today. So
I love that. Good. I love that. And I totally agree. And we've got some more comments here. We've got from Anthony Manzano. Did you guys already talk about the WWE signing contract with CW for NXT, and has WWE announced? Yes, we did. Unfortunately, Anthony, honestly, if you go back and watch the beginning, we totally broke the whole thing down. All love. Thank you again for joining. And then another one from Anthony Manzano. I think Keith Lee is going to be the one to dethrone Eddie as ROH champion. That is a fascinating prediction.
Another good match.
I don't hate it. that would be fun. I don't know if Eddie can. I don't know if I want to see Eddie take a spirit bomb.
It's a face versus face. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Not yet. It
Yeah,
won't
not
happen.
yet. And then Bobby Petito is with us on. He's also interested in this World Television ROH World Television title match between Joe and Keith Lee. I am too. And then Anthony also added, don't forget he learned under Sting and Kurt Angle when they were in the main event Mafia and TNA. That is a great point. And speaking of passing down knowledge to a guy like Keith Lee working together, I think it's money, and I'm excited for the match tonight without question. Let's move on to not only our main event of the evening, but the main event of the evening. We've got the world champion, despite the fact that he's not carrying his belt, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, all the way out of, what is he, Long Island, New York. He's a Long Islander against, Chaos. Come on, we got to get the dance.
I'm waiting for you to say it.
Daniel Garcia, baby. Oh, yes.
My brother. That's my guy right there.
I am a diehard fan of Daniel Garcia. He main evented the PWD show that me and Carter attended, and it was nothing short of delightful, including the dances. Never gets old to me. Talk about two exciting wrestlers to have in the ring in a main event. But let's be honest. Max is going over. I mean, right? What is he going to hit him with the ring this time? Or is he going to, doesn't matter what it is. Max is going over. I'm still just excited to see Garcia in the spot. He deserves it. He's earned it throughout the year. Chaos, I'm tossing it to you first. Any chance Daniel Garcia pulls the upset?
Well, I would love for it to happen, but yeah, unfortunately, my boy they're gonna put in a banger of a match. I just know it, because even the past couple weeks, I was surprised when, especially last week when it was Chris Jericho and Omega versus 2.0. Well, I can't remember the name, that Magic Hand Ange and the other guy.
Yeah, Cool Hand Ange and
McMuffin and
McMuffin. Yes,
and it took you back home for some coffee. Yeah, I know the story. But I was surprised that he wasn't in their corner, because I know there's this whole weird. They're still dragging that storyline with 2.0 and Chris Jericho, like they're friends and all that kind of stuff. But he was nowhere amongst them. So that same time, I was just wondering, what's happening to Garcia? I thought he was one of the most over people on the roster with that shtick, and he was not really being shown much on Dynamite. It was more on ROH, if I recall. So the fact that he randomly called out MJF and he wants a title match and he's getting it, he's well deserved. I really kind of feel like I wish that they kind of built this out more, because again, this is another pit stop for the main event at the Forum at Full Gear. But yeah, I think it'll be fun. I do feel like there's gonna be some weird dance off thing they're gonna do, because that's what didn't they do that one time? Yeah. It was during the tag match. I know I think it was him and Cole, MJF and Cole versus Garcia and stuff. There was a little dance off. So
they've definitely danced before.
Yeah, they definitely danced. I think they're gonna do it, especially with MJF completely leaning hard into this babyface run. They're gonna do something mad. I think it'll be hilarious, because I pop anytime he does the dance, Daniel Garcia. So, but when it gets serious, it's gonna get really serious. And MJF for the win. Some Jay White is probably gonna come out and they're probably gonna try and beat down MJF. Don't forget, obviously, unfortunately, Roderick Strong is still part of this this whole storyline. And then he's gonna somehow factor into it. Either way, I just want this. As much as I loved the Better Than You Bebe team, this arc that MJF is going with Roderick Strong and all that kind of stuff, and Jay White, I just can't wait for Full Gear for it to be all over, and then we can hopefully get down to more serious business. But yeah, that's for another topic. MJF for a win, gonna be a great match, and I can't wait for Daniel Garcia to go and bust the move, baby.
Yup. I do think though you nailed it on the head with this whole the Roderick Strong thing, that Adam Cole injury really hurt storytelling.
Oh, 100%.
And that's,
100%.
there's nothing you can do about that, right? We're wish him the best recovering from injury, right? Like you don't want anyone to get hurt. But it does feel a bit at times like, dang man, this could have been really special storytelling wise if you have all hands on deck, right? If the cards are dealt properly on this one, and they got a bad hand, with, and not literal, but I guess figuratively they got a bad, what is it, a leg, ankle? They got a bad ankle.
Yeah.
But it's just it's one of those things, and it's provided some mud for this. MJF has done a beautiful job, I think, of kind of carrying through, as best he can. I love Daniel Garcia, but there's not an avenue for victory here other than maybe some sort of retaliation, given the storyline going with, as you said, the guy in the neck brace. Let's talk about the guy in the neck brace, and let's talk about this match as a whole. Do you think there's any chance of Roderick Strong running in, Carter, on this one? Well, I guess
wheelchair. Yeah, it's gonna be wheelchair. Yeah.
The voice can bring him in.
Rolling in.
I mean, you guys said you did like the Roddy story. Dude, I love that Adam Cole's out there. He's getting taken care of. He's with a man who's a fine medical, he's around some great medical professionals with a neck problem like that. I think the storytelling is great, but I have some fun facts for you guys. So, Clark, we went to the last PWG event, Mystery Vortex. I got Cage Match open right now. PWG is the 6th highest rated wrestling promotion out of every wrestling promotion. It's the only one in the top 10 with an over 9-star average match rating outside of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Danny Garcia is the heavyweight champion of PWG. So you might see him as like a goofy little sort of male, little Magic Mike thing in the when he's on TV, but in the indies, he's a god. He is an indie god. I'm sorry, Matt Cardona. I know you're kind of but I mean, he's amazing. And when we saw him at a Mystery Vortex, he had a 60-minute Iron Man match with Speedball Mike Bailey. When that DVD comes out, watch it and look in the third tier for me and Clark screaming our little lungs off. But I mean, the guy's great. It's going to be a fun match. You have two true sports entertainers. And yeah, I think Roddy's going to come out. And don't forget, too, Roddy's one hell of an indie god himself. So it's just, you forget how much talent you have in AEW. But I've been watching some of PWG's greatest hits this week. I was watching Roddy versus Kenny Omega. That match was amazing. So these guys are really talented. They have, back to Samoa Joe, they have great experience. This is just going to be a fun match. This is just going to be a blast. Danny's probably going to lose, but they're building him up properly. They're building up the champ with the 6th best promotion in the world, and it'll be good. It'll be good. We're going to have fun tonight.
I'm excited, 100%. And honestly, Garcia deserves it. It's funny. The first time I saw him wrestle was he main evented Rampage before All Out in Chicago a couple years back. And it was him against Darby Allin. And I knew
I remember the match. Yeah. Sorry.
But it exceeded my expectations by miles. Right? I was almost kind of laughing, like, wait a minute, like, it's funny. I was at the show with my mom and one of my buddies, and the three of us were sitting there, and I was like, so Darby's gonna wrestle Punk in the main event of the pay-per-view, or not main event, but right on the pay-per-view. I don't know how you top that. Like, I was blown away by Garcia then. That's when I first, really saw the talent level.
Yeah.
And it's there. Like, it's funny to me because bell to bell, there's almost no denying how great Garcia is. His moveset is deep. He can adapt to multiple styles and can work with almost anybody of any size, right? Like that I think is what makes Garcia so good. When you have two people like MJF and Daniel Garcia, even in a predictable match in the same ring at the same time, it's just hard not to get excited about it. even not knowing, but fully believing that MJF is going to go over. Having him on the other end of this one, I think it's a fun main event. I couldn't be more excited about it. But with that does bring us to the end of the show. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you haven't liked and subscribed already, please do. Check us out on Take It to the Table. We got another one that we're recording this afternoon.
Yes.
My good friend,
actually. We're
my
going to
good
got a
friend-
new tier list as well. New tier list.
My good friend Chaos, the host of that show. Check it out. We'll be there. On behalf of Carter and Chaos, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will talk to you tomorrow, not the same time. Thursday afternoon, we are on at 3 p.m. Pacific, which is, of course, 11 p.m. in the UK. That is 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, and I mean, noon in Hawaii. Have a good one.
Doritos. Yeah.